Good morning. It's early January. I'm here at the Cleversburg Sink Cave in the surrounding area. I'm looking for melt spots today, essentially. I'm looking for new caves. Cleversburg Sink is a very large cave, and a lot of it is inaccessible during the wetter periods of the year. And it's due to a siphon. The water level rises and it prevents access to the rest of the cave. Ideally, we'd be able to find another entrance on the other side of the siphon to permit access to the rest of the cave during those times of the year. Also, just any sort of melt spot to any sort of cave would be really a good thing. But there's a good bit of property here with a lot of limestone exposure. I'm just going to walk around and try to find what I can. You see the ground here. You'll notice we've got some snow. This has been here for about a week. One thing to note that's really important, I think, is it's like dry snow. It's very crunchy. The leaves themselves, while they may be covered in snow, are very, very dry. So a key indicator for melt or just heat is you'll begin to notice that the leaves themselves almost have a wet quality to them. So the car thermometer says something like 10 degrees. The phone says, about the same degrees as well. So it's pretty good conditions for finding melt right now. So here is Cleversburg Sink itself with the cave down on the bottom of it. You probably can't make it out on video, but there is actually some steam coming out of the entrance as well as off to the side here. And we'll get down in there here in a minute, and I'll show you some other signs to look for heat flow. Okay. I am now in the bottom of Cleversburg Sink, and we're a little bit closer to where the air is coming out. So there's a couple more things I want to show you here. First is this frosting here. It's very distinct and very pretty, actually. You only get this whenever hot air essentially comes out of a crack like this and then recrystallizes when it hits the atmosphere there. So I think they might call this hoarfrost. I'm not sure though. Either way, it's quite beautiful, but it's a very good sign that you have steam coming out. Now, you may or may not be able to see on the video the steam actually coming out of this crack. It's coming out pretty good, but even whenever it's not coming out so well, if you see that frost, that's a really good sign. Even on a smaller scale, just the crystals themselves are different. Let's walk over to the entrance real quick here. Yes, a lot of steam coming out right now. Probably even get the camera fogged up a little bit here. Yeah, so that's what we're looking for. And here, you see, because the steam is coming out, the warm air that is, you get that real wet quality. These leaves aren't dry, they're very, very wet. So even on a smaller scale, that's what you want to look for. So I decided to go east instead of west, where most of the land and the exposure is. I figured this is probably a little bit of a neglected area here. I found my first sign of heat coming out of the ground. It's not much, but it gives you an idea of what I'm looking for. So let's turn this thing around here. Again, just a very, almost imperceptible depression in the ground here. And if you look close enough, you can see the frost is different from the surrounding area. Now, obviously it's not even enough to heat the air up, so I wouldn't exactly call this a prime digging spot, so to speak, or, dig here, but it is worth noting. And again, this is just to give you an example of what I'm looking for. But I'm just about as far east as I can get before it turns into private property here. Well, I've been to the east and I haven't found much of anything yet. So I'm going to go along the bank here now to the west of Cleversburg Sink to see if, to see what these other caves are doing. There's like 2 or 3, maybe 4 den caves along the bank here. It'd be interesting to see if they have air and what direction it's going. Cleversburg Sink, obviously, there's flowing air. Perhaps these caves here are sucking. Also, I mean, if there's like 2 or 3 caves here that are unconnected, it's conceivable that 1 or more connect into Cleversburg. It's also conceivable that we might stumble across the, I don't know, 5th or 6th. But yeah, we'll just walk this way and see what we find. So I haven't made it too far from the trail yet along this bank looking for melt. I've found 2 examples now. I'm starting to think I'm probably going to be finding a lot. So what I've been doing is just been taking coordinates of each one that I find and making any notes if they're worth taking any notes of. You can see the trail. It's just over here and it splits, goes one way and goes another, so not very far at all. But here's another example I'd like to show you. Get out of the sunlight here. So as you could probably see, there's the frost that I was speaking to before. But another good indicator I've found a lot of times, sometimes this can be deceptive though, is strong growth of moss. That kind of tells me there's a pretty consistent supply of moisture to support the moss growth there. So if you look over here, for example, the moss almost looks dry. It's not very luxuriant growth. It's just even in these cracks here of a similar nature. But over here, very nice, very green, very moist. So it tells me it's probably cave air. One thing to keep in mind though is that groundhogs like to dig holes and they can give off body heat too, so it can give you a false positive. But what I'm seeing here is certainly not from a groundhog. This is definitely geothermal in nature. So definitely one worth taking a note. And even way up here above the hole, you can see a little bit of something coming out here. Looks like this might be a crack, because even up above the hole you also get this. So if one were to dig up this area, one may in fact find a little bit of a passage here. Who knows what it would lead to. So yeah, just another example. So from here on, since it looks like I'm probably going to be finding a lot of these, probably only going to pull the camera out for the more significant finds. Okay, I haven't walked much further and I've found something else. I don't believe this is one of the den caves, but there is pretty strong airflow coming out. I don't believe it's one of the den caves because the holes don't appear to be passable. It's possible they could be made passable, but right now definitely does not appear to be one of the den caves. But very significant, I think, in terms of its relation to Cleversburg Cave. You don't get this much air unless it's somehow connected. Again, note the strong moss. Note the frosting on the perimeter. And this is really good airflow, actually. See these leaves in here? Keep in mind, it's a rather still day outside. I mean, it's a good day to find airflow. I mean, there's a little bit of movement, but not much. But here, there's a lot of movement inside this hole, so definitely connects to a cave. I mean, there's strong steam coming out, but yeah, just something worth noting. I'll add it to my list of coordinates. Okay, so I'm still not very far from Cleversburg Sink, but yet again, I felt compelled to pull the camera out. So, just up here is where I found that nice crack with really strong, good warm air coming out. And just walking a little further down the hill here, I've encountered what is probably the den number 1. You notice there's really not a whole lot of frost around here. You would think, you know, either this is a dead cave, you know, so to speak, you know, in other words, it doesn't connect into the main system, or it does, and the airflow is going the other way. So I got a little bit closer, and I began to notice that there is frost on the inside, so I thought, okay, maybe this is blowing out and I just can't feel it very well. But when I breathed into the cave, I noticed my ear, the air from my face just sucks right in. So that tells me this doesn't connect, and it's feeding right into Cleversburg, more than likely. A very strong pull. Now, you may ask, as I do, why is there frost on here then? And I think that's because locally you get a little bit of circulation, so it will drop in and a little bit will come back out. But with the rate at which my breath is being pulled into the cave, it doesn't at all match, you know, whatever airflow is coming out that would produce this frosting on the top here. So this is absolutely sucking in. If it's blowing out at all, the sucking is by far more strong. So in my mind, I mean, this would be a pretty strong potential for tying into the main cave. But yeah, this is a case where in the winter it doesn't help you. The airflow, it's very hard to get a feeling for air going into a cave. It's really easy to feel that warm air blasting on your face, but an example like this, you have to be more observant, and you really almost have to just, you know, be there at the right time to notice it. Okay, still not very far from Cleversburg Sank Cave entrance, but I came across a fairly promising melt spot. I've already started to paw out a little bit and pulling a full little rocks away. It's turned into a little bit of a blower now. You can probably see some steam coming out in the video. Again, you don't get this kind of airflow, in my opinion, unless it ties into something of moderate size in terms of a cave. So again, it might be worth digging. Now, this does appear to be a big rock, but I was able to actually move it, so I think this is all just a whole bunch of blocks. This whole entire area, even way up into here, just all a big old melt spot, so you could probably pull just about all this away, and who knows what you might expose. But, I would say you probably have another cave here. Does it tie into Cleversburg? I don't know. But absolutely worth coming back to at some point. Okay, noticed one thing. I was walking along and saw a flat area down here. I thought, okay, maybe somebody covered some wood or something. It looks to be a pallet with camouflage on it. I've already pulled open the pallet here, and it looks like somebody's been digging here. I suspect they too are trying to find another way into Cleversburg. However, one thing I do want to point out, while there does appear to be slight frosting of a kind along the perimeter of the pallet, I'm not seeing a whole lot of airflow here. So that kind of suggests to me that, you know, perhaps if this does connect, there's a lot more digging to be done yet. But who knows, maybe there's just a plug right on the other side. But it's very dry in there, just not seeing a whole lot. But this could be an example of airflow in the reverse direction, and if that's the case, maybe you wouldn't find a lot of frost. So it would be interesting to learn more about why an individual or individuals chose to dig here. Just right up there is a platform, so it's not too far away from my melt spot, but If it were my time, I would probably focus on that melt spot, I think, before investing too much time here. But, an interesting find. I'm on a bench here, walking around. Still just looking for melt spots or anything. There's a lot of nice exposure here. Saw this feature here, but you know, there's no sort of frost at all. Again, could be too low with airflow going the other way. The leaves are really matted down that location. I think probably had an animal sitting there not too long ago. But, good looking limestone. It almost looks quarried away, some of this. Okay, here we go. See that? Right there. It's rising warm air that's hitting the cold air and recrystallizing into ice once more. So that's a pretty good sign right there of airflow. I bet you dug that open, probably find yourself another cave there. Let's see. Yep. Some off to the side here. What about? Yep. There's even some here. So tells me that this hole, wherever it goes, is probably a little bit extensive, and this crack is all related to back to that right there. It's right under here. That I think this is kind of where the cave, Cleversburg Cave, trends as well. So wouldn't really be too bad of an idea to paw around at this spot a little bit, kind of see what becomes of it. Maybe nothing, but maybe everything. Okay, so I think this is just absolutely hilarious. So I've got to film a little bit of this. But in addition to Cleversburg Sink Cave, which is probably a good half-mile down there by this point, I'm now beside the highway, and there's another cave called Carnegie Cave. It's literally right underneath the highway. I think I found it. Again, I've never been here before, but it's just too hilarious of a thing to not include in a video here. So let's see if this is it. Yep, this is it. It's just so absurd. I don't know if like the original entrance was underneath the highway at the time of construction or what the deal was, but literally underneath the highway. Let's see here. No, that's interesting. Look at that air pulling in. You see that? Pulls her right in. So I'm probably going to get a little bit of flack for doing this, but I think I'm going to go in just a little ways just to get a feeling for how, if it goes on the other side of this or not. Let's see, can I walk? Huh. Nah, I won't be going through here today. But, very cool. The airflow is quite strong. Sucking in quite severely. Interesting. But yeah, cave underneath the highway. How about that? Okay, so I just left Carnegie Cave, and I've walked north now up through this property here. I'm assuming it's all the same property because I haven't seen any sort of indication of a fence, any sort of no trespassing, what have you. But before I came on this property, I noticed there was a pretty nice sink just kind of out in the middle of nowhere. I'm not certain, but I think I found it. One problem though, all this road comes here, comes to what I think is probably the sink area, and it looks like somebody has significantly filled in the sink here. Now, typically, I mean, this is pretty common to fill in a sink, but sometimes sinks have caves and habitats for animals as well. And looking at the base of this nice oak tree here, very nice oak tree, significant amount of frost around the oak tree. When I say significant, I do mean significant. I mean that's rising warm air. There's some sort of cave underneath there, which is very unfortunate because, I mean, good luck trying to dig that open. Who knows? You even got some on this side. Look at this. They filled something in here. I mean, I could see steam. You might not be able to see it on the video, but I could see steam coming right out here. I mean, there's a cave here. But was it wide open before they filled it in? You know, I don't know. I don't even know if this is what property this is, to be honest. But I mean, it's disappointing. Actually, looking a little bit closer, there's another tree here, and sure enough, there's more frost. I mean, put two and two together, there's actually, yep, even down in here, look at that, frost on that. There's some good crystals there, I'm about to cover them with snow. Yeah, you simply don't get that kind of, yeah, look at that. I think I even see a little bit of airflow there. Yeah. You know what? Get them roots away. I bet there's a cave underneath it there. Underneath all this fill. What a shame though. Could have been wide open for all I know. But yeah, I'd say there's a cave under here somewhere. Well, that pretty much wraps it up for the day. Found a lot of melt, a couple of caves that were known, and some pretty strong signs of one or two caves that probably aren't known. I'd say the biggest things of note today, probably one, that large crack with the steam coming out of it. Two, the large melt spot not too far from the platform. See, three would probably be that area that I almost looked quarried away with all that really nice exposure. Very large melt. I didn't show in the video, but on up the hill, large melt spot. And again, I think that's consistent with the ending of the cave. So if someone's interested in finding another way in, that would also be a pretty good candidate. The last thing of note was just the amount of air that was sucking into Carnegie Cave. I mean, that tells me there's a lot of thermal mass there. That's finding another exit else somewhere else. I think it would be highly profitable, so to speak, in caving terms, for finding another entrance. There might even be a lot more to Carnegie Cave than what meets the eye, judging from that air. That's just a lot of air. But anyway, that pretty much wraps it up. Hopefully you learned a little bit about finding holes in the ground.